All right. Okay, well, first of all, good afternoon to members of the media, and thank you for coming out here this afternoon to this press conference as we launch a very, very important regional meeting and regional process that will be taking place in August. With me, I have to my left, we have Comrade Anthony Batiste, who is the Vice President, Secretary to the Trinidad branch, OWTU Trinidad branch. And to my right, we have an activist, social activist, Ms. Kimberly Gay, who would also say a few words in terms of why it is important for us to be part of this process. Well, we are here to announce very proudly the hosting of the 6th Assembly of Caribbean People. The 6th Assembly of Caribbean People will take place in Curacao between the 2nd to the 5th of August, 2015. So what is the Assembly of Caribbean People? The Assembly of Caribbean People is really a process by which grassroots civil society organizations come together as part of the process of strengthening integration within the Caribbean. The ACP is particularly different in that it is not government's meeting, neither is it business sector or business interest meeting. It is rather civil society, NGOs, activists from women, youth, from grassroots organizations like community organizations. We have as well trade unions as part of that process. And it is important to have a broad-based grassroots aspect or component to building integration so that it's not only happening at the governmental level or even at the business sector level. But what exactly are the historical antecedents of the ACP? The Assembly of Caribbean People is actually an idea that originated with cultural activist John LaRose when he was here in Trinidad in 1987 during the 50th anniversary of the OWTU, where it was realized that, listen, in order for us to strengthen regional integration, we must have civil society, grassroots, interacting with each other and building solidarity amongst each other. It was also important to bring not just a wide cross-section of sectors, but even countries, meaning we will include not just the English-speaking Caribbean, but rather the Spanish, the French, the Dutch, the Creole, all of those various components that make up the Caribbean, the wider pan-Caribbean experience, would really be part of the assembly process. The first assembly, after that initial idea, some preparatory work took place, and one, Comrade David Abdullah, would have led the process in implementing and bringing to life this idea of an assembly of Caribbean people. The first assembly took place in 1994 right here in Trinidad and Tobago. The second assembly was in the Dominican Republic in 2001, the third in Haiti in 2004, the fourth was in Cuba 2008, and the fifth was in Barbados in 2010. This will be the first time that the assembly will take place in a Dutch-speaking country, which is Curacao. And again, the theme for this sixth assembly is towards the integration of the Caribbean based on sovereignty and solidarity. We see this as an important theme since the first idea of the assembly emerged out of a notion that another Caribbean is possible. Meaning that when we look at the state of the Caribbean economies, it was realized that we needed to create a different type of Caribbean. One where the integration process is real, where it touches on the lives of ordinary citizens throughout the Caribbean, the pan-Caribbean. In terms of this year's assembly towards the integration of the Caribbean based on sovereignty and solidarity, when we look at the Caribbean now, we see that there are countries right now in the Caribbean. It is the one region in the world that have the most colonized countries or places. For example, you have Puerto Rico, the U.S. Virgin Islands, colonies of the United States, Martinique, Guadeloupe, Saint Bartholomew, and Guyane, colonies of France. We have Anguilla, Montserrat, British Virgin Islands, Bermuda, Turks and Caicos, Cayman Islands, colonies of Britain, Curacao, Aruba, Bonaire, Saint Eustatia, colonies of Holland, and of course Saint Martin, which is a colony of both France and Holland. So this amount of countries that are still colonies is an affront to the idea of freedom, identity, and self-determination. So that will be discussed. We'll also look at the situation in Haiti, where you have the militarization of Haiti through MINUSTAH, a project of the UN. Then we will be celebrating this year in 2015 the 100th anniversary of the first invasion of Haiti by the US in 1915, and the 50th anniversary of the US military invasion of the Dominican Republic in 1965. We will be meeting as well in the context of warming relations between Cuba and the United States, which will of course open up all different types of opportunities, but also it creates a situation where the Caribbean and the relationship between the Caribbean and the United States would be reviewed. We would be meeting in the context of the Caribbean region being one of the most indebted regions in the world. We talk about Greece, we look at the situation in Greece, but right here in the Caribbean, we have countries, we have governments who are currently in an external debt crisis. They include Belize, Dominican Republic, Grenada, Jamaica, and of course St. Vincent. And we have a situation in Trinidad and Tobago where we increased our national debt in the last 5 years by some 64.5%. That will also be part of the discussion at the Assembly. And of course, in the Assembly, we will be discussing the widening gap between rich and poor right here in the Caribbean region. The question of inequality, the question of access to goods and services, but also to important benefits such as water, electricity, public transport, healthcare, education. We'll be looking at youth violence, which is fueled by the drug trade. So there are several wide-ranging issues that will be covered at the Assembly. In terms of the local process, well, in Trinidad and Tobago, we formed a local organizing committee, which was established a few months ago, and we have some members of the committee here. And that, in addition to simply having a committee that looked at organizing the delegation to go, the process also included education, and there was an educational component, a session whereby potential delegates, but not only delegates, but activists and various civil society organizations and groups will be part of that consciousness-raising educational session. Currently, at the moment, we have delegations who have confirmed thus far to attend and to participate at the Assembly would be Curacao, Suriname, Barbados, Haiti, the Dominican Republic, Cuba, and of course, Trinidad and Tobago. Other English-speaking Caribbean countries are in the process of confirming their delegation to attend. So that, in a nutshell, is what we wanted to announce here this afternoon, which is the 6th Assembly of Caribbean People, which will be held in Curacao between the 2nd and 5th of August 2015. I am Ozzy Warwick, one of the coordinators of the local organizing committee, and will be responsible for ensuring that we have a decent delegation going across to Curacao. I would like to now ask Ms. Kimberly Gay, who will be one of the part of the local organizing committee. I would like her to just share from her perspective why such an assembly is important for us here in Trinidad and, of course, for the Caribbean.
Thank you very much, Ozzy. Good afternoon. My name is Kimberly Gay. Thank you very much, Mr. Warwick, and all members of media who are here with us today. Certainly, the ACP is an important platform for discussions across the region. As Mr. Warwick would have indicated, the grassroots organizations have an opportunity, NGOs, civil society has an opportunity to come together in a space and freely discuss the issues that may or may not be properly dissected via media and other fora. And so this is a space where they can discuss some of the challenges, the policies, what is happening with respect to globalization, climate change, what's happening in the area of education, what's happening with respect to several facets of our day-to-day life. And so this space is certainly a meaningful opportunity whereby young persons, activists, persons in the area of education, child rights and so forth can come together and certainly talk about some of the topic areas that would have been discussed by Mr. Warwick. Thank you.
Okay, this is the sixth one. Yeah, the sixth one. The previous five being held, the first one was in Trinidad and Tobago. The second one was in the Dominican Republic. Third in Haiti. Fourth in Cuba. Fifth was in Barbados. And this will be the first time it will be in a Dutch-speaking Caribbean territory, which will be Curacao.
All had the same or whatever you were going after?
Yes, they're all part of, it's a building block towards stronger integration, stronger ties. The theme itself will change from time to time, every year. There's a different theme, but the goal, the general essence, is about integration. How do we strengthen integration at the grassroots level?
At this assembly, how many people from individual countries would be attending?
Well, various countries will have various size delegates. I know the large ones, of course, like Cuba will have a large delegation. Haiti would have a very large delegation. Dominican Republic, Barbados, Jamaica, and of course Trinidad, we're hoping to have a delegation of about 15 persons to go across. But in essence, it ranges between, let's say, 10 to 20. So in all, there could be about 300 persons participating at the assembly in Curacao. Well, I know that in the previous ones, it would be various prime ministers. For example, in this one coming up, you have like George Lamming is a personality who would probably speak. Then you might have like Ralph Gonzalez is another one, who has always been supportive of the integrative process. And other personalities like that. I know David Abdullah from here. He is an regional executive committee member, and he himself will be delivering a major address at that conference.
What happened at the end of this? I think we'll just go back to the respective...
Well, I can tell you what a few things. One, of course, a very important resolution will be passed. Secondly, coming out of one of the second assembly, the Assembly of Caribbean Youth came out of that. And that was the precursor to the Caribbean Youth Councils. So that came about as a result of this process. The other thing is the type of solidarity we see in terms of Haiti. If you recall, when we had the earthquake in Haiti, there was a lot of mobilization. Well, I can tell you, at the level of grassroots, there was huge amount of mobilization in terms of the relief efforts for Haiti. And that was possible because of the assembly process. Because at that meeting, you build networks, you build connections with other civil society groups. So it was very easy when Haiti cried out for help that civil society grassroots organization could have helped. And it will always be like that. So this is why this process of civil society and grassroots organization is so important.
And they challenge governments.
And they challenge, yes. Well, that's definitely to do. To challenge the status quo.
Yeah.
I'm going around to tell people about this organization. How do I identify you all with other people who are trying to find out more about your organization?
Okay, well, currently the local organizing committee is situated at the OWTU, Oilfield Workers Trade Union. So if they need more information, they can contact, or they can find out, or they can contact the OWTU, and myself being the local coordinator.
What you all hope to achieve at the end of all of this in terms of young people, getting involved?
Another Caribbean. A Caribbean where young people feel connected to its future, where they feel a sense of hope, where they feel that they can contribute to building a Caribbean civilization that can really maximize the full potential of every single citizen. What we hope to achieve is to have young people with a sense of destiny within themselves, but not destiny as an abstraction or as something external to them, but destiny that they themselves going to create. And what kind of destiny is that? It is a destiny where you have a Caribbean where everyone counts, a Caribbean where social justice is there for all, a Caribbean where the resources of the region is really used for the benefit of all citizens, not some, not just corporations. It is a Caribbean where we can all feel a sense of pride and feel a sense of worth, a sense of identity, so that we can stand on the world stage and stand on the stages of history and say that indeed this Caribbean civilization was one of the great ones.
Do you think one day we'll be able to just hop on a plane without a visa within the Caribbean?
We will have no choice to reach to that point, because it's the only way we will survive. When we realize the world economic crisis is worsening, we realize that we cannot really stand alone as islands. We may be geographically, some of us, not all, but some of us may be geographic islands, but we are not islands as a people. And that it will be easy for us to be able, just as they have in the European Union, or even in the United States, because people forget that that is a federation, that's a federal arrangement. So just as in those situations, we should be able, with my ID, maybe one day we'll have a Caribbean ID, and we can simply get on a plane or get on a boat, and we can go and visit our friends, family, and do business in other countries across the various borders.
Finally, do you think that the different countries that we're going to partake, what are they coming with? What message they're coming in? What proposals and what they're hoping to gain from all of this?
I think a lot of them coming with the same idea, which is how can they be greater integrated into the Caribbean, especially the Dutch-speaking Caribbean, the French-speaking Caribbean, and the Spanish-speaking Caribbean. Because the truth is, if you speak to them, and this is why this assembly is important, it gives us an opportunity to be exposed to them and vice versa. And therefore, if you speak to them, they will tell you that they feel more Caribbean than Latin American. They feel more Caribbean. And therefore, because the Caribbean itself is such a unique experience, regardless of the language. And I think they are coming with a clear idea and a clear vision that, listen, we want to be great, we want to be further integrated into the Caribbean.
Okay, just remind us about it from where it starts and where it's ending.
Okay. So we're talking about the 6th Assembly of Caribbean People, which will take place on the 2nd to the 5th of August in Curacao. The theme is towards the integration of the Caribbean based on sovereignty and solidarity. It's about strengthening the integration process at the level of grassroots and civil society organizations. It is where activists, whether youth activists, women activists, cultural activists, environmentalists, trade unionists, is where we the people, come together to create a Caribbean that is unique, special, and can benefit all of us, not just some.
Finally, given that the 1st of August is Emancipation Day, a public holiday that we in Trinidad have been trying to market to the world, is Curacao bearing this in mind, seeing that their celebration begins on the 2nd?
Yes, it's not only being borne in mind in Curacao, but even by the Haitians who are coming, who would have celebrated being the first country to be emancipated by themselves, if we might add. And they're bearing that in mind, and therefore the Trinidad delegation that will arrive there will be greatly appreciated and will be factored into the agenda. Because the idea of emancipation, in light of the fact that there are several countries that are still colonized, is a major, major issue at the Assembly. Thank you very much for coming and covering us this afternoon.